Hey guys, I have a question. What would it do for you if you could enhance your power out of the gate, enhance your sprint speed down the first straight, enhance your skills, enhance your mental performance mind state? What would that do for your racing or your kids' racing? If you're seeing the value of enhancing your BMX performance, consider joining the community of BMX Training Pro and get the same access my Olympic athletes have enjoyed, as well as thousands of BMXers all over the world. Some members use the access to improve their gate start techniques. Some also use the access to keep them motivated to train, and you'll find your reason when you gain access and join BMX Training Pro today. All right, guys. Hey, listen, welcome to BMX Coach Live. This is going to be my unofficial first live on YouTube. I've always done Facebook Lives, and typically I'll do that like on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I mean, during these times, things have been a little bit inconsistent, but I think on YouTube, we're going to begin a show every week, Monday, anytime starting between 5 and 6 o'clock. It just depends on when I can get to it, but I think Monday is going to be a good time for me to do this. And I would say Monday because, well, throughout the week, I'm really busy coaching, and I've been doing a lot of online coaching, just working with clients, Zoom one-on-one, and enjoying working with people from all over the world. Awesome pros all over the world, amateurs alike. I've been working with a lot of women all over the United States, and also women in Great Britain and also Australia. And it's been a wonderful opportunity to get in touch with everybody that's especially going through these times during the COVID-19, and everyone needing to up their game in terms of the mental preparation and motivation. And that seems to be the biggest struggle that I'm finding with a lot of you guys, especially with the inconsistency of racing. I know my clients in Great Britain are not racing right now. They have local racing, but their national series has been canceled. So it's been quite the challenge, hasn't it? And over here in the US, if you guys are watching here in the US, it's been a struggle for us as well, because one moment the race is scheduled and everything looks good, and then the next moment, wherever that race is at in terms of the city says, you know what, government orders, city orders, our numbers are up and we need to shut groups down. So it's really, really hard. It's really hard to try to have a target that keeps moving on us, right? It's kind of like if you were to go to shooting range and you got this target's moving all over the place, after a while it gets old. And so I think it's important for us to exercise behavior flexibility and being able to be adaptable, right? And of course, you guys being BMX racers are so adaptable, and I really appreciate you guys. Anyways, yeah, you know, I wanted to use this platform to answer questions that I get not only here, because I would like for you guys to ask questions here, but I'm also going to answer questions that I get through my private messages on Facebook. Facebook and also Instagram. And so I get messages all day long. I get email messages, Facebook Messenger messages, and direct messages on Instagram. And please forgive me, I'm not always able to be in a position because I'm on the Pacific time zone to answer somebody while I'm sleeping. And so what happens is I wake up in the morning, my day gets started, and you know, I don't realize I have these questions to ask until the afternoon, because anyways, long story short, I'm making this a platform for me to address a lot of the awesome questions that you guys have for me. And so I see a lot of you guys. I see a handful of you guys that are in the chat. I appreciate you guys for coming in. And I think I was scheduled to go on at 5:30, but you know, we went live, so we're gonna go live. And so we got Aussie Rides is in the house. Johnson Media Productions. He has a 7-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl. He has a question. I'll get to that here in a minute. Drax RC, the Russian potato. I love that, the Russian potato. Is that like a potato gun? Cool. So there's a handful of you guys, a small group, and I appreciate that. That's great, because, man, if I had a big group of like 1,000 people, I might get nervous. But not to say that I'm not nervous now. But I really appreciate you guys asking these questions, and we'll get to those questions. So, you know, usually when I do these lives, I usually have a list of things that I'm going to go over, and right now I don't. So, that being said, one of the biggest things that come to mind right now as I'm coaching my clients is being able to establish a goal, right? That seems to be the biggest challenge right now, especially during COVID, especially not knowing when the next race is going to be. The World Championships got canceled, the Olympics got canceled. Anything in terms of a big race, we don't know when that's going to happen. Of course, here in the States, we have the USA BMX Grands, and it looks like it's going to happen. It looks like races are happening right now. There was one this past weekend in the Dakotas or South Dakota, and there's going to be one in Nebraska. And a lot of my clients and athletes all over the world are looking forward to the USA BMX Grand Nationals in Tulsa. So it's really hard for a lot of us to establish a goal because of the moving targets. And I think that's fine. And I think number one, it's important for you guys to have these goals, but above all else, I think it's important for you guys to have an aim. Now, what is an aim, you ask? Well, let me get a drink of water. An aim is going to be your North Star, right? That means, in life, in general, I have an aim of what I want to be in certain categories of my life. Number one, it could be, an aim in my work and career, an aim in my health and fitness, an aim in my relationships. And, that's just a small, those are small pieces of pies in my life. I have 8 pieces of pies in my life, and I developed aims in all of those. And so I think it's important for young and aspiring and also older BMX athletes to have an aim as it pertains to their BMX racing. Now, what does that mean, having an aim? An aim is establishing who you want to become as a BMX racer. A lot of my young aspiring athletes that want to join national teams and get to the Olympic level and go to the Olympics, they have an aim of, okay, well, they want to go to the Olympics, but who do they need to become? And I think what you need to become is truly what you're going to elicit out of what your aims need to be. Now, I don't want you to confuse aim as far as having something, right? So let me give you an example. Let's say in my home and environment, right? In my aim in my home and environment, I want to have this huge $1 million mansion near the beach. Okay, that's having something. That's a goal. An aim should be more about, what do I want my house to become more of? I want a house of harmony, peacefulness, a place of recreation, a place to restore, right? To relax. And so I'm always working on that as an aim, right? Now, if I want to have something, then it's going to be more like, well, I want to have a house that has a 3-car garage, or I want a house that has a separate office, and be able to have all my awesome old school racing bikes in there. Okay, that's having something. And so those are goals. However, I'm always going to be aiming and going towards my aim. So I hope that makes sense. And so what I'm trying to say is, as it pertains to your BMX racing and your racing career, who are you trying to become? Ask yourself, who are you trying to become as a BMX racer? And I think it's important for you to establish that. And so let me give you an example of what one of my aims were when I was a young aspiring amateur becoming a professional. I wanted to be an awesome professional that won a lot of races, but more importantly, I wanted to be someone that was inspirational, someone that was empowered, someone that could motivate other people, okay? And someone that, I would say those are the 3 things. More importantly, motivate somebody, be inspiring, and I would say those are the main components of who I want to become. And so, I wasn't really focused on so much about being a number 1 pro or being a world champion. And I think the thing is that because those are results that are, like, if you were to want to become a world champion and you focused on that and it didn't happen, then it's going to crush you, right? However, if you focus on who are you trying to become as a BMX racer, I want to be someone that's inspiring, someone that works hard, someone that can inspire others, someone that is, motivating myself, and more importantly, doing it not only for myself, but for the goodness of, my family, my friends, and also the community, right? And so, who are you trying to become? A person of empowerment, a person that never gives up. Okay, so I think it's important for you guys to focus on who are you becoming. And once you establish that, then you can go ahead and start identifying the goals of what you need to do in an effort to become that person, right? And so maybe it's performance goals, right? Like maybe it's, okay, I want to be a top 5 NAG racer. I want to be, I don't know, a guy that's on the World Cup tour and he makes all his mains and he gets top 3s, and I want to be an Olympic rider. I want to be an Olympic gold medalist rider. And so once you start identifying your aim and then identifying all the goals, listen, those goals are going to be all the dominoes that you're going to knock down. That's going to ensure that you're becoming the person that you want to be as it pertains to your aim. All right. I hope that makes sense. And so what's important about establishing a goal? I think it's important for you to understand that not only are you going after this goal, but now it starts to come full circle and kind of supports your aim, because now you need to identify, well, if I want to be an Olympic champion, let's just go straight to the top. If I want to be an Olympic champion, who do I need to become in an effort to be the Olympic champion? All right. And are there other people, are there other Olympic champions out there that I can model? What have past Olympic champions, not only in BMX, but in other sports, right? It doesn't have to be BMX, but there's plenty of Olympic champions. There's plenty of Olympic medalists. Who have they become in an effort to go after that goal? So maybe realistically, if I'm talking to somebody that has, I don't know, like Johnson Media Productions here, he has a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl. Now, if the 9-year-old girl has a goal, type it in the comments. Let me know what the goal is. If they have a goal that, they want to go to the Grands and get top 3, okay, great. Who does she need to become in an effort to be a top 3 rider at the Grands? All right. So that's the key. And I think this is going to help you guys identify. It's going to help in terms of motivation during these times of COVID where everything's a moving target and you don't know what's going on. Hey, listen, if you can have a goal, or more importantly, have an aim of who you're trying to become, and that's going to be stronger than the motivation. That's going to become your ambition. That's going to get you motivated, right? It's going to be the ambition that creates action, right? And it's going to get you out of bed. It's going to put you on the path of taking action and becoming whoever you need to be. And you'll be able to get on the bike and do your sprints, head to the track if the track is open, go to the gym if you have the gym, or if you have gym equipment at the house, and also maybe perhaps if you're 9 years old, you're not doing gym strength workouts, but you can do body weight workouts. And so I think it's important for you guys to have an aim. I hope that makes sense. And that way you're more flexible. Like if a race doesn't happen, or if you don't even race this year, that's cool, because listen, I'm still working on becoming the person that I need to become in an effort to achieve the goal. All right. And that's the other flip side of it is it's always good to create goals, because whether you achieve them or not, if you go all in on those goals, whether you achieve them or not, what you're going to find at the end of the day, after the race, when it's all said and done and the dust has settled, you're going to realize, oh, wow, I actually became something. I grew, I spiraled up as a person. I became a person that was disciplined. I found a way to get motivated. I became a person that was dedicated and focused and became empowered. Okay, so that's my long rant as it pertains to creating some motivation, some ambition, some action, all through creating an aim, all through creating goals, and then identifying who you need to become in an effort to achieve those goals and to be that aim. Hope that makes sense. Let's go to the questions. Let's see what we have. I wish I had some music playing so I can entertain you guys a little bit. I had a question that came in yesterday. This was on Instagram from a guy named Cody, and he said, "Hey Greg, good evening. I was wondering if you would be able to help me out and answer some quick questions in regards to conditioning." And he says, "I'm having trouble with my endurance through the track." He says, "My local track is decently long. By the time I get out of the second turn, my legs are absolutely smoked and are tapped out for the second half." And then he went on a long rant about how he works out heavily for 5-6 days a week, and he goes to the gym a lot, and at the end of the day he wants to know, hey, what workout could I do to help build my leg endurance so my legs can make it a lot further through tracks? And I think at the end of the day, I think that's a great question, because this guy's going to the gym a lot, and for some reason he's losing power out of the second turn. And now when I say power, let's be more specific. Power endurance. So we're not talking about explosive power. We're talking about lower wattages of power. We're talking about a different metabolic system. So, if a race is roughly average around 40 to 45 seconds on an average track with an average racer, when you get to the second turn, you're about 20 seconds in. So you're definitely in a state of a more power endurance type metabolic state, right? So what does that mean? You're using different muscle fibers as opposed to the more explosive fibers that you had at the gate all the way to the first turn, right? That's all pure explosiveness, where technically it's ATP. You're not really needing to oxidize or metabolize anything, certainly in an effort to be explosive. But after that, you start to kick in a different energy system, and so it's going to be a mix of both type 2 and type 1 fibers. But I'm not going to get too technical here, because that's my job is to make things more simple, right? So at the end of the day, you're using a different energy system. So the thing is, if he's going to the gym and he's doing a bunch of explosive workouts, certainly that's going to help him get to it's going to help him get out of the gate, be explosive to the first jump and all the way to the first turn. And so what's happening is he's not addressing the energy system for him to be fit and powerful and be able to lay down more power out of the second turn all the way to finish line. So at the end of the day, it's important for him to work on interval training. Now, interval training can be done in two ways. Number one, it can be done at the track, and also it can be done away from the track. Both are going to be on the bike, okay? And so on the track, I would suggest doing half lap work. I would go at least from the gate all the way to the second turn, and I would try to repeat that as fast as you can, meaning you do that effort, you come back up to the gate and you do it again. You do that with less than, 3 or 4 minutes rest. And what that's going to do is it's going to train you to recover. Now, you might say, okay, well, what's going on, Greg? Because he's saying that he's having a hard time after the second turn. Okay, I get that. But at the end of the day, listen, you have to train the body to get through that explosive part, recover through that, and be able to transition to another energy system. And trust me, he's going to improve that. Now, you can also do longer efforts. You could go from the gate all the way to the third turn, rest, 4 to 5 minutes. If you're a younger kid, you can probably go less than that. Get back on the gate and do that again. Start with a set of 5 and see how that goes. And if you could do that with less rest, you're going to force your body in a state to, you're going to force it in a way that it needs to recover under stress while it's trying to remove all this metabolic waste. Because at the end of the day, that's the problem that Cody's having here, is that he's developing all this metabolic waste, all this explosive stuff going into the first turn. His legs are loaded up, and then he can't deal with it going into the second turn and all the way to finish line. So we have to be able to train the body to adapt to that. So we got to do interval training. Another way that he could do it, actually on my YouTube channel, on this channel here, there's a quarantine indoor workout. You could put your BMX bike or a road bike, or if you have access to a stationary bike, you could put it on a stationary, put your bike on a set of rollers or a stationary setup. And what you could do is you could pretty much do intervals. Say every 5 minutes you could pedal for, I don't know, 30 seconds all out, or you could do it for less. Maybe you can go more like 75% of your maximum perceived effort, and you're going to get the same benefit. Go 30 seconds, 75%, and then what you could do is you could rest for 3 or 4 minutes and then do it again. The quarantine workout on the YouTube channel, on this channel, BMX Training, is actually consists of broken sprints. It actually mimics more of a BMX race where, you know, you spend 5 seconds accelerating to the first turn. There's a micro rest for a couple seconds where you're going through some jumps and you hit it again. So those are actually more broken style sprints is what I would call them. I would definitely use that as a way to improve your power endurance. Certainly an easier way to do it in more controlled environment is to do it on a stationary bike, or you could just do it on your BMX bike in a safe environment. Okay, you could straight up do it on a safe bike friendly area, right, where you could sprint for 5 seconds, rest 2 seconds, sprint for 5 seconds, rest 2 seconds, sprint again 5 seconds. So that's like a 3x5. Again, rest anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, and then just try to do as many of those as you can. I would say if you could do at least 5 of those, that's great. Rest 10 minutes after that and see if you could do another set of 5. All right, let's see. We're 25 minutes in. I said I was going to go a half hour. Let's see what questions that you guys have. If you guys don't have any questions, I'm going to go to my phone here. Okay, so Johnson Media Production says, what's your thoughts on Speedo Velox? Maybe Chase Elementor. My kids are just practicing for the moment. Seem to like it so far. Those are bike models? Yeah, I'm not much of a guy on equipment. I think we're going to talk more about BMX racing and training performance. You asked, Johnson Media Productions also asked, is having a lightweight bike key? You know, I think psychologically, yes, absolutely, it helps, right? I think anything that can help out the psychological component is going to be key. I think at the end of the day, if you have younger kids and, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, 4 to 8 ounces is not going to make that huge of a difference, right? Listen, if you were to ask me, BMX is a gross power sport. More power, the better. I don't care how much you weigh. And that's not to say that you want to be overweight, underpowered. I'm just saying that if you're a big guy and, you're able to carry your weight and be strong, more than likely you're going to be faster than the lighter guy who's not as strong, right? And despite the fact that at the end of the day, you guys are pretty close in power to weight. I think at the end of the day, the stronger guy is going to have the better chance. So you could be a guy that's like 175 pounds, or in other weight metrics, it's going to be more like 70 kilos, for example. And if you're really strong, you're going to be able to compete against guys that are heavier and strong. So at the end of the day, what am I trying to say? BMX is a gross power sport. It's a power sport. So power is a component of strength times speed. Now, the limiting factor to power is always strength. So keep focusing on improving your strength and also addressing your acceleration, your leg speed. So you need both. And that being said, I think that trumps worrying about spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of trying to save, a bunch of weight. Now, if you want to worry about weight, get a good wheel set. Get a good wheel set that's light and focus on that. But I do tend to think that a lot of parents seem to unnecessarily spend money worrying about saving an ounce here and an ounce there. Again, I have no problems with people wanting to save more, but if the kid doesn't know the difference, the kid doesn't know the difference. Get him stronger, get him to do bigger gear sprints and develop that strength. Because at the end of the day, BMX is a gross power sport, and at the end of the day, the limiting factor to repeatability is strength. All right. What else do we have here? The Russian potato. Could you give any tips on manualing? Sure. It depends on where you're at. Do you want to work on your manuals on the track or at home? And I would say for the most of us that don't have track access, work on your manuals at home. And what I like to do is I like to work on flat ground manuals. I would set up 2 cones, so you have a target, you have a cone that you approach, at a decent speed, and you have another cone that you're trying to aim for in an effort to keep your front end up. Now, the key with manualing is leaning back, pushing your hips back, getting your arms just slightly bent. You don't want them too flex like this, where your elbows are like this. You just want to be able to find that nice sweet spot where you're balancing really nicely. And then, of course, lastly, I think more importantly, you want to have even pressure between the front and rear foot. So if you just want to have even pressure. And what I'm finding with manualing, for me, if I can recall a time, the limiting factor for me on manualing was always hamstring strength. And so, if you're a stronger guy and you can get into the gym, working on your hamstrings will definitely enable you to become a better manualer. If not, just work on your manualing. Just go out there and work on it for a half hour. Do many reps as you do sprints. So if every time you do a sprint, maybe you do a manual effort and see how long you can go. And the other thing that I would like to address when it comes to manualing is that it's important for you to always look ahead. You don't want to look at the ground. As soon as you look at the ground, you drop your head, the bike is going to drop. So wherever you look, that's where the front end's going to go. I hope that answered your question, the Russian potato. I like that. That's pretty cool. Anthony Grasher has a question here. Other than riding downhill, can you suggest any other overspeed training? How about foot speed drills off the bike as well? Overspeed training. Yeah, I think when we think about overspeed training, I think generally speaking, we tend to think about top end leg speed, say, halfway down the first straight after the first jump, or going into the first turn, or coming out of the first corner. That's where there's not as much resistance underneath our feet, so therefore we're focusing on a lot of high RPMs. And so when we think about overspeed training, and so I think it's okay also to think about overspeed training in terms of our acceleration out of the gate. And here's I don't know if this is going to answer your question, but I'm going to go ahead and dig this one out of my playbook here and give you a secret. So listen up. I think it's cool and it's a great idea to actually do undergeared sprints to work on overspeed component, developing more leg speed on your acceleration. Now, when we think of sprints, we're always doing flat ground stuff, uphill stuff. And I think that you can also do this with an easier gear and also do it just slightly downhill. And again, power is strength times speed. So we can also isolate the speed component of the acceleration. There's one for you. Foot speed drills as it pertains to overspeed. Now, are we talking, again, what I just spoke about, acceleration? Yeah, absolutely. We could do plyometrics, right? We could do skips, we could do bounding, we could do quarter squat jumps, and we could do pop squats. All those exercises are actually in the BMX Training Pro membership. There's a 2-day free trial. Go ahead and sign up, sneak in there, take a look at some of the training. I have a 21-day faster first straight. There is some overspeed off the bike training on there, plyometrics. To me, that's pretty much overspeed because it's really specific there's not much inertia to overcome other than your body weight, and you're really working on that reactive component, which I think is really important, especially in the first two pedals coming out of the gate. Anthony, I hope that answered your question. Let's see here. Ted Frankforter, I've been racing at my local track 3 times a week. Man, that's awesome. That's great. Okay, we got one coming in from Drax RC. Drax asks, what would be a good training regimen for new to BMX 10 and 12-year-olds? Just riding time or focused training? If you're new to BMX, then I think that at the end of the day, it's important, number one, for, of course, it's cliche, ensure that they're having fun. Ensure that they're having fun progressing their skills on the BMX track specifically. So definitely get out to the track, get as many gates as possible, work on the pumping, work on turning, work on getting comfortable with all the jumps, right? Work on fundamental skills. I would say that's the best way, because the body needs to get used to all those different movements of sprinting really hard, accelerating really hard, pumping, trying to work on jumping, working on mandling. Now, if you're new, mandling and jumping may not necessarily be a priority, and they might not be able to do that. However, if there's tabletops, beginners should definitely focus on trying to catch air. I think every racer should try to focus on catching air, even if it's just over either a tabletop or even just a roller, right? Even if it's just a nice peaky roller, they could pull up and land in the backside, even if it's not that far. I think racers need to work on any kind of jumping or any kind of bunny hopping for sure. Work on the skills. I really think that racers do not work on enough fundamental skills such as bunny hopping and just doing basic jumping, despite the fact they may never, I shouldn't say never, please forgive me, they may not jump during a race, because I have 15, 16-year-old girls that race at a high level, and they don't necessarily jump because they don't need to. They can get away with pumping. Okay. Now, if they're riding and racing at the Supercross level, then they obviously have to work on jumping. But back to your question of training regime for 10 to 12-year-olds. So definitely, number one, keep working on their skills. Number two, they can integrate some kind of sprint training, I would say 2 to 3 times a week, and get them used to working on their speed. And that's going to enable them to work on their fitness, because here's the thing. When they go out to the track and they're working on their skills, at some point they're going to get tired. And if you get tired, you're going to end up doing the skills improperly, and that may lead to fatigue, and fatigue can lead to crashing. So I think it's still important for beginner riders that are new to the sport to work on their sprint training and get their body conditioned to sprinting fast. Not only sprinting fast, but more importantly, being able to recover from that. They can also do basic body weight exercises. Again, go into BMX Training Pro, my membership. There's a 2-day free trial, and you guys could check out some of the training programs in there that will work for 12 and under kids. Anthony Grasher says, thanks, man, you're welcome. The Russian potato. Oh, now he wants to talk about jumping. Give me more specifics about jumping. What's your issue, Russian potato, about jumping? Let me know. I love that name. I just love saying Russian potato. What does that mean? Tell us. All right. So, Drax RC says, just trying to even make a full lap without pooping out. Their first jump was the coolest thing they've ever done. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, like I said in the beginning, if you're just now watching this, make sure you check out the replay. And when we're done, I'm going to let this video ride in our video library. So go back to the area where we talked about working on conditioning as it pertains to interval training. Johnson says, Greg, thank you for all the valuable information, and thank you for live streaming. Yes, I love what I do. You're welcome. And let's see what other questions I have here on. Okay, Mandling questions. I had another great question that came in through Instagram. If you guys have any questions, make sure you guys type them here below. Also, if you guys can, please share this. You know, one of the main reasons why I do this is to help out newer, younger, and even newer older riders in our sport, because at the end of the day, listen, if I want to be able to give back, because the more I give, the more I receive, but I love giving back. And so I think it's important for us to continuously help out younger and older riders that are newer to our sport, and even parents, because the number one problem that we have in our sport is that we just don't have enough participants. And the participants that we do have, they only average a lifespan of about 24 months. So I'm finding the more education that we can bring to riders, the more education that we can bring to newer riders and newer parents and also current parents of our sport, if we can get everyone, if we can help out people as it pertains to their experience with BMX, certainly they're going to embrace that and they're going to stick around the sport longer. So please help out as many people as you can, as I'm doing with you guys. Pass the love. Make sure you guys are helping out people, and ask for permission. Hey, is there something I can help you with? You know, I have a tip and I have something that I can share with you. And perhaps maybe it's something that you've learned, and maybe you've learned it from me. Share it. That's what I'm here for. I'm all about spreading the love and sharing the knowledge. Again, we need more participants in our sport. And right now with COVID, we're having a hard time retaining these participants. And so let's see. I had another question that came in. Looks like we have more questions coming in. The Russian Potato and Anthony over here have a couple questions. We'll get to that in a second. I have two accounts, so I got to check out this other account here. Here's a question. This is a really nice common question that I get a lot. Greg, how long should my sprints be? And you know what? At the end of the day, it depends on what you would like to improve specifically. Now, they said, my gate starts, my first straight. Now, if you're looking to improve your acceleration, then your sprints need to be short, right? Probably no longer than the average distance to a first jump. And typically, that's about 5 full pedal cranks. Okay, 5 full pedal cranks is about 75 feet. I don't know what that is in meters. If someone knows, help us out here. And the reason being that you want to go short, especially if you're trying to improve the acceleration in that area, is you want to be able to repeat it without getting fatigued. So keep the sprint short. Sometimes, you know, there's other coaches out there, they believe going long. Hey, listen, I have no problems going long. When I prepare myself specifically, when I prepare other athletes on tracks where they have to do a lot of pedaling, especially all the way to, say, you know, coming out of the first turn, then I typically have them do longer sprints. I'll have them go 15 cranks long, right? Despite the fact that there's never a track where we're gonna pedal 15 pedals long with any interruption. There's going to be some kind of jump. There's going to be some kind of micro pause. And so, you know, that for me, I think that was an area, and for some of my athletes, I wanted them to work on, again, that specific energy system to be able to keep accelerating, especially coming out of the first turn. I'll have them go really long. But I think if you want to improve your acceleration out of the gate, down the first straight, especially to the first jump, then let's focus on keeping the sprint short. Number one, it's important to do that because we're going to save more energy. We're going to be able to do more repetition, and we can go, if we can do more repetition, then we're going to go deeper, and we're going to go further into our technique and also strength and specific power development. And so, yeah, great question. What other questions do we have here? Let's see. Okay, the Russian Potato, as it pertains to jumping, he says, well, I mostly get scared. Let me move my mic over here. I mostly get scared when I'm about to jump, like I'm going to go sideways and not be able to control my direction. And He says, my name doesn't really mean anything. I just thought it was funny. Okay, the Russian potato. Okay, so let's focus on. He gets scared when he jumps, and he's getting scared because he thinks or he believes he's going to go sideways and not be able to control his bike. Okay, so I think at the end of the day, what's going on is that right before you approach the jump, you're focusing on a negative outcome, right? You're focusing on something that you don't want to happen. And I was just talking to a client earlier today, and I'm not going to say their name, but they didn't have a great weekend of racing because they were focused on something that they didn't want to happen. They didn't want to finish out of the top 3, and sure enough, they finished out of the top 3 because their subconscious mind focused on not finishing out of the top 3. How does this relate to jumping, you may ask, Greg? Okay, well, listen, I think at the end of the day, if you focus on something that you don't want, you're going to get it. It's just that simple. That's just how the unconscious mind works. So you could trick the unconscious mind by focusing on what you do want, right? I want to jump straight. I want to land straight. I want to land smoothly. Focus on landing smoothly. It's really sometimes that easy to do. And, you know, being a person that, listen, as a licensed hypnotherapist, as a person that deals with emotional baggage, and as a person that practices mental and emotional release therapy, trust me, I deal with a lot of fears. I deal with a lot of limiting beliefs as to why they cannot jump safely, right? And so if you do have a problem with that, let me know. I can help you out with that. But what's important for me to tell you that, well, at the end of the day, what I find is that usually they're scared because of a past experience, right? They had a time where they crashed on the jump, and then they labeled that as, wow, you know what? Jumping is really scary and I don't like jumping anymore. And then every time they go to jump, you know, they freeze up, because what's happening is you're running a program. And when you come out of that first turn, you're going to hit that big jump. The unconscious mind is going to be like, okay, cool, we're hitting this jump. What did we do last time? I don't know. What did we do? Oh, well, we got scared. We crashed and we got scared. So if it gets to that point and it gets really extreme, then we need to change the programming on an unconscious level. And so, so that's something that I can help you out with. If you don't have that experience, if you don't have that great of a fear, and maybe it's just a general fear, like, you know what, I've had riders where they don't want a case because someone in the stands will judge them, right? It's crazy what goes on through our minds. I don't want a case because someone's watching and you know, they'll think less of me. It's crazy, right? But listen, I'm not here to judge those reasons. I think at the end of the day, it's important for us to focus on the outcome that you do want. Move towards a positive direction. Move towards, I'm hitting that jump and I'm landing smoothly, and I'm hitting that jump with confidence, and that's it. Sometimes it's as easy as practicing that, and practice doing that with smaller jumps to get your confidence back, and then start progressing to bigger jumps once you're getting comfortable with that. Sometimes you're just going to have to do the old-fashioned way, which is just doing the hard repetition work. It might take a little bit of time, and that's okay. And you know what? If you are a person that's dealing with a lot of fear and can't jump, and that's preventing you from jumping, then hit me up, message me. I can help you out with that. Anthony says, I'm a novice and I'm trying to pedal the entire track. I could do the rollers fine, but the angle of the tabletops caused me to stop pedaling. How should I approach the tabletops? I think there's no problem with you doing a micro pause. Like, you don't need to pedal all the way through the jump at 100% effort. Listen, some of the top pros can't do that. So don't be so hard on yourself. If you have to micro pause to stay smooth, I think that's more valuable in terms of keeping your track speed, and then just getting back on the gas, getting back on the pedals as soon as you can, and focus on getting more quality of a pedal stroke as opposed to as many pedal strokes as you can. I see this happening with younger riders, right? They go through rhythm sections and they're pedaling nonstop through a rhythm section. If you see it sometimes, it's not really helpful. And it's just because they're fighting the transition of the jump when they could be using a pumping technique to actually generate speed. And listen, I always tell my beginner riders every time I've coached them, jumps are there for you to create speed, not to stop you. So if you could pump it and it's faster than pedaling, but then by all means, pump it. And then if there's enough space for you to grab a pedal, then grab it, because we already know what a full pedal requires. It requires 15 feet. A full pedal stroke is 15 feet long. Half of that's going to be 7 feet. So if you're trying to pedal in a 3-foot area, how much benefit are you really truly going to get out of that? Perhaps you're going to get more out of pumping. And there's nothing wrong with that. Angel Rodriguez, the Russian Potato says, yeah, because yesterday I fell trying to manual and hit my tailbone pretty hard, but I'm all right. Yeah, sometimes, man, you just have to get up. Don't make it mean anything, right? Just get back up and start working on your manuals again. Work on your manuals in the parking lot and just focus on the fundamentals and getting your confidence back. Listen, I think the idea is, at the end of the day, when it comes to our skills, we want to master it, right? In terms of learning skills, we want to master it. And that just mastering means unconscious competence. That means we're fully competent of doing it without thinking. Now, majority of us don't have it like that, because when it comes to learning, there's 4 phases of learning. And let's go over that real quick. The first phase is unconscious incompetence. We don't know what we don't know. The next level is conscious incompetence. Okay, now we realize that we don't know a whole lot. From there, if we keep working on it, then it's conscious competence. That means we know and we're competent about it, but we also have to think about it. And then mastery is you're able to do it without thinking. Okay, what does that mean? That's kind of like walking down the street, chewing gum, and maybe talking on the phone. Listen, you don't have to think about walking, you're just doing it. And so we want to be able to get, in an effort to get confident, regain our confidence and get back on the track working on things, we just want to focus on the fundamentals where we could get it to where we're mastering the movement. It doesn't really matter if you're manualing, a 10-foot double or 10 feet on the sidewalk. It doesn't really matter if you're manualing 1 foot or 5 feet. Just focus on getting used to mastering, working on your manuals, and that's going to help your confidence by default. I hope that's helpful. Angel had a comment. You mentioned the sport's poor retention rates. As a longtime BMXer, I think it has a lot to do with parents' behavior. Can you speak to some of the things they should not do to set an example? Oh man, you want me to go there, huh? Okay, I can go there. Listen, I think at the end of the day, parents, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of parents that are watching this. I would say most of my clients and most of the people that buy my products are actually parents. And so I understand parents very well. And despite the fact that I'm not a parent of a BMX racer, I had a parent when I raced, so I get it. And I would say at the end of the day, I think it's really important for parents to watch their communication and focus on empowering them and focus on letting their younger riders figure it out for themselves, right? Instead of telling them, oh man, that was a bad lap. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. You should have done this and you should have done that. Okay, well, right off the hop, that rider is going to be defensive. He's not going to have a great time in the sport, right? It's just not going to last, because all of a sudden he's going to be racing out of a negative motivator, which is, oh gosh, I hope I have a good lap just so I don't get ridiculed by my dad or my mom, right? So I think it's important that parents need to focus on their communication. And the best way to communicate would be to empower that athlete after they had a lap, whether it was good or bad. Hey, how did you feel about that lap? Okay, let's just say they had a bad lap. They had a crappy lap. The best way that I would approach that as a coach or a parent, hey man, what happened? Let them talk. All you have to say is, hey, what happened? Shut your mouth. Hey man, what happened? Just sit there and listen. The next question could be, well, what could you have done differently? And shut your mouth. Let them talk. Let them figure it out. Empower the athlete. Okay, you're going to get more. There's going to be a better experience relationship wise if a parent can keep it really that simple, right? Don't be their coach. Don't start pointing. Don't be an NFL coach and say, you know what, you that was crappy. That was unacceptable. Get off the field. I'm going to put someone else in your place. No, at the end of the day, you just have to say, hey, how did it go? What could you have done differently? And more importantly, I would say, listen, you could always say, if you really want to give someone criticism, then you need to start off with, hey man, I really love that gate start, really love the way you were pedaling, looks like you're putting a good effort out there. And then if you want to give them criticism, it has to start with the word and, not but, because but negates everything that you said. So you got to say the word and. And what do you think that you could have done differently? Okay. Might want to write that down. Communication's everything. Listen, I tell the parents of my clients, and also a lot of my clients are actually coaches because they all coach at a local level. And I tell them all the time, like, listen, you don't have to have my credentials. You don't have to be a former professional who coached at the Olympic Games in an effort to be a coach. I said, listen, at the end of the day, I said, write this down. At the end of the day, coaching is just having the ability to influence somebody to influence themselves. And so what does that mean? That means it comes down to communication. Influence comes down to communication. That means having rapport. And anytime you approach somebody in a negative manner where you're going to criticize them and they're going to become defensive, you've lost rapport. You've lost that ability to influence them. So communication, the meaning of communication is a response that you get. So it comes down to building rapport, empowering that rider, and giving them a chance to figure it out themselves. Cool. We got a lot of cool questions coming in. And it looks like I've been streaming for more than 50 minutes. So we'll take a few more. I got to cook dinner tonight, okay? And I'm running out of water here. Thank you so much for showing up and giving me an opportunity to help you guys. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Excuse me, I was burping there. I am human. Let's see here. Angel said, be supportive but not overbearing in a competitive setting. Yeah. I hope that was helpful, Angel, and thank you so much for asking that question. That's an area that I love talking more about, even more so than, helping out people manualing and developing a faster first straight, despite the fact that I love that stuff too. But I'm really, really big on communication. And so, communication's everything. Isaiah Official says, he asked, question, so I have power, strength, speed, but I'm lacking on some technique. I do sprints, CrossFit, and my gait is lacking my second pedal, but I don't understand why, because I have a lot of strength. Okay, man, that was a big run-on sentence. I think what you're trying to say is you're a person that is dedicated to working out, who is strong, who does their sprint training, who does gym training, and despite the fact that they have a lot of strength, their second pedal is lacking. More than likely, Isaiah, that's probably, and please forgive me, I don't know if I pronounced your name correctly, more than likely that's just technique. And so, yeah, it comes down to technique. Go to my BMX training, go to bmxtraining.com and go check out the gate start area, and perhaps you just need it comes down to like what your first movement is like out of the gate. That's going to determine your acceleration position. If you have the correct acceleration position, then you're going to be efficient and effective to deliver power. Now, check it out. You can have two racers that are equally strong. Let's just say, hypothetically, same person, they're twins. Same bike setup, same height, same weight. They're both strong, okay? Same power to weight. One of them has a different technique than the other. Okay, the person with the most efficient technique is going to be able to get the most out of their power to weight ratio. They're going to get the most out of their strength. And so at the end of the day, the limiting factor is technique. It's being able to be in the correct position to be efficient. Because if you're not in the correct position, then you're not giving yourself the optimal chance to deliver your power that you've been working on in the gym. I hope that's helpful. So always, number one, I think it always comes down to technique. Jacob James, tips on the double manual in a roller section. I tend to do them on accident. Hey man, that's great. I get it. I've done them on accident too. And let me ask you this, how's that a problem? But I don't understand why, because I have a lot of strength. Okay, hold on a second. I read the wrong sentence. Tips on the double manual in a roller section. I tend to do them on accident, but can never get them while trying. Thanks, Greg. Well, I think what you need to do is you need to go back in time, go back to that specific time, and imagine when you were doing these on accident, what were you looking at? What did you see? Were you looking far ahead? Were you looking down? Because if you're trying to do it on purpose, and maybe something's tightening up to where the front end's dropping really quickly, maybe it's where the eyes are being drawn to. So when it comes to double manualing, I would say you definitely want to focus on the target where you want to put your front wheel down. Are you doing that? Make sure you're doing that. And then if you're not doing that, then you need to go back in time, go back to that specific time when you were doing them on accident, and try to elicit either what you saw or what you were feeling. What was your body feeling like? Right? Were you really not like in the flow and everything was feeling nice and flowy? Right? Because sometimes it just comes back to getting to that feeling again of how you felt on the bike. Because if you're feeling different and you're trying to force something, then you're not going to be able to replicate it as you were when you're doing it. Sounds like you were doing it very efficiently and effectively by not trying. And so I think that's more of a mindset thing, right? Angel says, I think we were talking about the parents. Great response. I could not agree more. I wish more parents did it your way. I have seen too many riders quit because of parents. Yeah, and you know, at the end of the day, I think here's the thing, man. This is going really esoteric and off in a different direction. People's communication is typically limited to their own projections. Okay, people's communication is typically limited to one's projections. Okay, so yeah, I'll leave it at that. Isaiah, yeah, you're saying it right, man. Thank you so much. I'll check it out. So Isaiah was talking about being really strong, working on his sprints, working on the gym, and doing a lot of work in the gym to develop his strength, and he's not getting an effective second pedal. And we talked about technique and an effort to be efficient, right? And being in the proper position to allow his strength to come through and deliver the power. Cool. Matthew Shoemaker, any suggestion for younger riders 8 and under to help them develop skills as intermediates and keep them interested in this sport? Yeah, I would say, you know, I don't know if you're just coming in right now, Matthew, but if you get a chance, watch this replay. And I would say probably anywhere from the 15-minute to the 40-minute mark. I addressed a lot of this stuff. At the end of the day, I would say focus on the fundamentals, focus on, you know, them having fun, working on pumping, focus on their gate starts, focus on sprint training, and keeping it in a competitive, fun environment, and have everything moving in a positive direction, right? Focusing on what they want as opposed to what they don't want. Yeah, keep it fun, not a chore. Yeah, I would say for an 8 and under, you know, if I had an 8 and under right now, I would focus, you know, at the track, focus on the basics, right? Focus on pumping. Focus on incentivizing them to, you know, pedal throughout an entire turn, right? Um, yeah, I really think at the end of the day, if if I was a parent of an 8-year-old, I would say, hey, you know, what's today's objective? Like, what would you like to do today? You know, what's your goal for today? And try to get the intent. You know, if they want to work hard, then encourage them to work hard, right? If they just want to have fun, then maybe it wouldn't be a time to, you know, get them to be all serious about doing a bunch of repetitions on something that may burn them out. So find out, you know, ask them simple questions, right? Ask them, hey, what do you want to achieve today? Is there anything you want to achieve? And I think that would go a long way. All right, guys. Well, hey, it's been over an hour. Again, I am grateful for the opportunity to be here for you guys. Thank you so much for asking these awesome and wonderful questions and giving me a chance to share my knowledge and my experience. It's something that I enjoy. It's something that I love to do. Looks like I have another question coming in, and I get tied in, but I'll take a look at that. But again, I just want to say thank you. I'll take a look at this question and then I'm out because I'm getting hungry and I need to cook dinner and move on with my day. And there's some more coaching for me to do. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. Matthew says thank you. Isaiah says thank you so much. Have a nice dinner, man. The Russian potato. Bye. Thank you for the help. Isaiah says till next time. And Isaiah did ask, do you think if I'm lacking technique with my incredible strength, I should put the gym on hold? No, absolutely not. Keep working hard in the gym. I think at the end of the day, that's important, man, because again, I addressed this earlier. BMX is a gross power sport. So just find a way to, maybe you could shift your attention into doing more effective and efficient sprint training, right? If you private message me, email me greg@bmxtraining.com, and I can share with you a couple links that will help you work on your acceleration position and be able to get a better second and third pedal coming out of the gate, Isaiah, okay? Do that for me. Yeah, because Isaiah says, I'm a junior elite moving to Holland soon to become a pro. Yeah, if you're a junior elite, definitely keep working on the strength. Start integrating more technique work. You should be able to do that, man. Jacob James says, Greg, in your videos you mentioned anchor the bars. Could you please elaborate that? Thank you. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, what I mean by anchoring the bars is that you just want to focus on the grip and just kind of anchor it all the way through, not necessarily pulling up on the bars. Does that make sense? Because I think we're talking about coming out of the gate. So what I mean is you're just kind of anchoring the bars to, I don't know if you can see me, but basically you're just anchoring the bars like that as opposed to pulling up on the bars. See how my elbows broke and came up? Now that's a more deliberate pulling up on the bars as opposed to anchoring the bars. Anchoring the bars is just basically kind of like almost accessing your lats and your upper back strength, as opposed to breaking at the elbows and accessing, you know, the biceps and all this stuff unnecessarily. I think that's what we're talking about, right? Trying to keep the front end low and anchor the bars and, yeah, not deliberately pulling up. I hope that answers your question. Guys, thank you so much. I will be back next Monday. Let's call it 5:30. 5:30? I'll see you guys at 5:30 next Monday. Again, thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you guys soon. Hey guys, I have a question. What would it do for you if you could enhance your power out of the gate, enhance your sprint speed down the first straight, enhance your skills, enhance your mental performance mind state? What would that do for your racing or your kids' racing? If you're seeing the value of enhancing your BMX performance, consider joining the community of BMX Training Pro and get the same access my Olympic athletes have enjoyed, as well as thousands of BMXers all over the world. Some members use the access to improve their gate start techniques. Some also use the access to keep them motivated to train, and you'll find your reason when you gain access and join BMX Training Pro today.